Well, good afternoon and welcome to the West Ham Daily on the West Ham Network. Uh, the day after the defeat by Arsenal, Arsenal go above us in the league in fourth place. We drop down to fifth. Possibility we could drop down a little bit more with the games in hand that Man United and Spurs have over us. But you know what? We've still got to be positive, and I know it can be a bit of a downer at the moment. We're not playing well. We're not getting the results we want. We're not putting in the performances that we should be putting in as well. And there is a concern. We've got a lot of injuries. We know that primarily at the back. But despite that, we're trying to do our best at the back. We're trying to sort of make what we can of it. And in a way, we kind of we all right. We lost 2 goals on Wednesday against Arsenal, but our defence, it's patchy, but we're trying our best. But this isn't about the defence. This is more about what's happening up front. And we've got issues, haven't we? We're not firing on all cylinders. We've been, the squad has been saying it. The players after games have been saying it quite a few times after a game that, we're not putting the goal, we're not creating chances, we're not putting the ball away and onwards. And we're not playing to our strengths. And I think the game against Arsenal was not so much the result. The result was bad, obviously, but I think it was the performance that was more of a concern than the result. I don't. We did the review last night. I came on as I was walking out of the stadium, etc. So very, very briefly, I think it's quite evident what happened against Arsenal. We gave them far too much respect. We sat back far too deeply. We allowed them to play their game. They were playing it from the back. We weren't closing down. Every time we got the ball, they were on us. It doesn't matter where on the pitch we were. They were on us, not giving us any time to move the ball. And they were making us hurry the pass and everything. But we weren't doing that with them, so we allowed them far too much respect. That's the first thing. And then when we did get the ball, I don't want this to be an Antonio bashing. I really don't. But when Antonio was getting the ball, he was not doing much with it. And I've seen comments about, we're not giving him the support he needs, and I get that. I do get that. Sometimes you look at the game against Chelsea, the second half against Chelsea, when we had Bowen playing a lot closer to Antonio and giving him that support, and it kind of worked. And I don't understand why Moyes kind of, when he sees that working, why he doesn't continue to do that. But despite that, we know Antonio is off the boil. We know that. There's no denying it. It's not having a go at that player in particular, but we can see that he is totally and utterly off the boil, and we need something to change. We need something different to happen, and if that means having to drop Antonio, then that's what we've got to do. But we know that Moyes won't do that, and we also know that Moyes hasn't brought another striker into the squad because he knows that Antonio is always going to be his number one. Whenever Antonio is fit, Antonio will play. And it doesn't seem to matter whether Antonio is playing well or badly. It just seems that as it stands for David Moyes, Antonio is irreplaceable. Is that the right thing? Look, here are our attacking options, and I've included a couple of youngsters in on this as well. We know Antonio is the main man. There's no denying that. And then you've got Bowen, Yarmolenko, Benrahma, and Fornals, as well as Vlasic and Lanzini. And then there are the two young boys. We've got Perkins, and I've thrown in Okoflex because Okoflex was on the bench against Arsenal last night. And who knows if we'd still had 11 players on the pitch, whether Moyes might have taken that risk and given Okoflex a little run out. We don't know. But when everyone is fit, we know that that's the first choice. We know that at the start of the season, Antonio plays up front. Bowen, Benrahma and Fornals have been primarily the mainstays in attacking, and that's worked for us for the major part of the season. And then when things were going slightly wrong, Lanzini has, rightly so, edged his way into that lineup, and right. And over the last few weeks, we've seen a switch. It's been Fornals or Ben Rama, and Lanzini coming off, halfway through a game or whatever it may be. But there are a couple of players there that haven't kind of featured as much as we would want or hope or expect, and that's obviously Yarmolenko and Vlasic. Vlasic has had cameo roles. Yarmolenko mainly in Europa, but not so much in the league. And this is where the problem starts to lie. If you can't rely, for whatever reason, if you think that Vlasic still needs more time, and you think Yarmolenko's not doing it, I'm not surprised that he's looked at Flex and Perkins as being as potential options. But what do we do without Antonio? As I said, if Antonio is fit, Antonio plays as far as Moyes is concerned. There are options, I mean, you can choose anyone in the three attacking lineup. I've gone with Flex, with Lanzini or Fornals, or you can go with Bowen. Sorry, you can go with Flex, Fornals, Ben Rama. You got a mix there as an alternative to Antonio. But will it work? Will the force number 9 work? You can even throw Vlasic in there and try that as well. But will Moyes stop playing Antonio um, as a tactical move? Look, we know Antonio's career stats. There's no denying. No, he's not 19. He's 31. I forgot to change that. So my apologies for that. Joined in 2015. Versatile player. Numerous positions. He became our number 9. He wore the number 9 shirt this year, but he became our number 9 last year. Strong, shields the ball well, can be sublime 1 minute and very ineffective the next. Look, it was his 200th appearance against Arsenal for West Ham. 55 goals, 22 assists, which is very, very good for a player who hasn't played up front all of his West Ham career. This season, 19 appearances, 7 goals overall, 5 assists. But the last goal he scored was against Spurs in October. And he's made 3 appearances and 2 goals for Jamaica. And so we know what value he brings to West Ham. But when Antonio is not on his game, that then becomes a big issue. And I understand, the people saying in the chat last night in the review, well, if you don't give him support, you're not going to get the best out of him. But what we expect of Antonio is for that player to hold the ball. When the ball goes to him, hold it, shield it, make sure he's guarding that ball to allow players to actually run in and help him. When he doesn't do that, your attack-minded players are thinking more defensively than they are about, going to support him. And what's been happening over the past few weeks, 5, 6 weeks or so, is Antonio is not shielding the ball properly. That ball isn't sticking to him. We saw it fleetingly against Chelsea a couple of weeks ago, where in the second half, all of a sudden he was a transformed player as opposed to what he was doing in the first half. Some may argue, as I say, that that's because Bowen was playing closer to him. That's possible. That's possible. But I think we can see in Antonio's body language, in his movement, in the way he's approaching the game, that it's just not happening for him. And would it be the right thing to actually take him out of the firing line just for a little while? I'm not suggesting dropping him totally. I'm talking about, maybe utilizing him as an impact sub, whether that be at half time or later on in the second half or whatever it may be. If it's not going well with the different options that we may have, sort of like putting in without Antonio, Bowen up front, and using either Flex or some other whatever that choice may be without him, we're never going to really know if anything else works. Now, what was interesting is people were moaning at the fact that Antonio was playing out wide against Arsenal. That was deliberate. Antonio didn't decide to go out right. And Bowen decided to go. It was a tactical switch, and I was thinking to myself, okay, if Moyes has made that tactical switch during the game, in asking Antonio to go out wide and Bowen up front, then why not put someone else in that wide position, like an Flex or a Vlasic or something else? If it wasn't working out for Antonio, Why have him on the pitch? It was agonising. I felt sorry for him because nothing was happening. Whether he played up front, whether he played out wide, whatever it was, nothing was happening. Nothing was coming off for him. He's a man who's not in form at the moment. Let's be honest. He is not in form. It's not happening for him. So why not just, rather than create it must be affecting him as a player. He's on the pitch, he knows himself it's not happening for him, so why not take him out of that firing line? And then when we're like at half time in a game or halfway through the second half, whatever it may be, then turn around to him and say, right, you've got 20 minutes, 30 minutes to make an impact, go on there and show me what you can do. He just doesn't seem to be firing on all cylinders from the start of a game. I don't know, but Moyes won't do it. Moyes will not change. So long as Antonio is fit, Moyes will always pick him. And this is the kind of the problem I have with David Moyes sometimes. As much as we love what he's done with West Ham, sometimes he just needs to mix it up. He's got a squad of players, and he needs to have faith in those players to mix it up a little bit. Look, I know. The likes of Yarmolenko ain't doing it. Vlasic is taking time to bed in. It may not happen for him. I still think that there's an opportunity for him. But if he's calling in the likes of Oko Flex, then why not use him? Even though we went a man down in the game against Arsenal, Antonio was labouring on the right hand side. Occo Flex, by all accounts, I don't want to put too much burden onto the young lad, and I'm just suggesting it could be Occo Flex, it could be someone else, Vlasic or whatever. Change it up. Have faith in your squad in order to be able to put something a little bit fresh in. When we've got Antonio on there, and if it's not working, the whole team doesn't look like it's playing well. And this is the problem with us at the moment. When we're relying too much on Antonio, and because of that, when he's on that pitch, the whole team is suffering. Now, look. I don't want to put too much faith in Occo Flex. He's a young lad, he's in the West Ham Academy at the moment. He only signed professional contract. He's joined us in this season, age 19. Look, his original position was left back. He's gone through the youth system, etc., with Celtic and so on. But this season alone, for the under 23s, he's made 15 appearances, 11 goals with 1 assist. And, he's been brought into the under 21 Republic of Ireland squad. He's very highly thought of. He's a strong lad. Now, when it comes to him, comparing him to Perkins, we can see he's still developing. He's a young player. He's still developing. He's still learning his trade. Occo Flex is, but he's a lot closer to a first team call up than Perkins is for the Premier League. Now, I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday. We don't even know if the game's going to be on the way things are going with COVID, etc. But Occo Flex was put into the squad against Arsenal. Like I said, perhaps if we didn't lose a player due to a really bad sending off, that maybe Occo Flex might have got an opportunity to show what he's made of. I'm kind of hoping that he's in the squad for Saturday against Norwich, and I'm kind of hoping that he might get a good amount of time, to come up. I'm not suggesting that the young lad should start, but at least give him 20 minutes, 30 minutes, if he doesn't start, to demonstrate what he's capable of doing. We need something different. We need an alternative. Asking, David Moyes to drop Antonio is a tall order, but sometimes he's done it with other players. He's done it with Ben Rama when it hasn't been working. You could see he did it with Fornals when Moyes came back to the club. He dropped Fornals, and ironically at the time, Fornals was actually doing reasonably well. So why not, do it with Antonio? All right, he's the only striker. He's the only recognised striker that we've got. If you call him a striker, I mean, yeah, a converted striker. But it doesn't mean that just because that's your only choice that you go with him whether he's playing well or not. Use the number nine, false number nine approach if need be. When the January window comes, that's a different matter altogether. What Moyes does, I mean, I think we now know we need reinforcements. There's no denying it in order to keep ourselves at the top of the league. But between now and then, we've got another 4 games to go before the January window opens, and then you could argue the game against Crystal Palace. That's 5 games before you start even looking, unless he's already got players that are going to come in on the very first day. But even then, they won't be eligible for the Crystal Palace game. So basically, that's 5 games before we play our next game in January. That Moyes has got to make some decisions. He's got to decide what does he do with our, how does he change the impetus up front in order to make us more effective. And if that means having to put Antonio on the bench and bringing him on later in the game, then so be it. I don't think that's, I think that shows that Moyes has got faith in the players that he's got. He'll have a word with Antonio and say, "Look, it's just not happening for you. I'm going to bring you on as an impact sub. Let's see what you can do with that." But Moyes, he keeps the faith, doesn't he? He keeps the faith whether the player, he has certain players that he will never drop, and Antonio is one of them. Look at Fabianski. Now, Fabianski has proved himself. Great save for the penalty against Arsenal, and he kind of kept us in that game as well, not to make the score any worse. But Fabianski has proved that he still can be the number one. What Antonio has done is he started off really well in the season, but he's not maintaining it. Going to Jamaica and playing all those games abroad are not helping as well. And I just wonder whether Antonio makes a decision, a personal decision, whether he stays in the Jamaican squad or not, because I think it doesn't help. It doesn't help. He's 31 years of age. It does not help his domestic playing career. Being, great that he's having being called up for international duty, but is it to the detriment of playing for West Ham? Now, Antonio wasn't doing that well before he went off for international duty, but it was disguised by the fact that he got the odd goal, got the odd assist, etc. So everyone's saying he's great, he's great, he's great. Antonio's been labouring for quite some time, and there's been flashes of greatness from him, but there's been long spells in games where he's just not been doing it. Now, look, Antonio, people are going to say that I'm picking on him. I'm not. You can see what's happening. Fornals has sort of like lost his form. He's dropped out. When Benrahma's lost his form, he's dropped out. Lanzini's come in. Moyes is mixing them up. He's saying if you're not going to be consistent, I'm going to change you. I'm going to change the way you guys play, or who starts and who's on the bench, and that's all very well. And that's what he's got to do with the rest of the squad. You've seen Johnson's come in when Soufal was off injured, and Johnson, staked his claim in the team. He demonstrated that he can actually play in that role, and it was only because he got injured again that Soufal was back in again. And of course, with Cresswell as well being injured and everyone switching around. So why not do the same with Antonio? It means that you're utilising your whole squad rather than just playing him when he's not doing well can't be good for his own confidence. You know, I don't know. I just think we need something different. We need an alternative approach, and maybe putting Antonio on the bench for Saturday against Norwich, if the game is played, might not necessarily be a bad thing. Start with a false number 9. Start with Vlasic up front, or start with Bowen up front. Put Antonio on the bench. Let him see what's going on in the game, and then Moyes can speak to him while he's on the bench and say, right, there you go. You can see what's going on. You can see the weakness here or the weakness there, etc. I want you to go on and bully that right back or that left back or that central defender or whatever it may be. Go and make an impact. And that might give Antonio the boost he needs to say, right, I understand what's needed of me again. Because at the moment he's lost his way. And it's such a shame because it has a detriment to the whole team. Right. It's not a rant because I don't want to sound like I'm ranting. And I tried desperately last night after, when I was coming out of the stadium, not to be down on things because, we're still fifth. And as I keep saying, we're still in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. We're in the knockout stages of the Europa League. It's great. But Moyes needs to really sort of take control of this and make that difficult decision. If he feels that Antonio's not 100%, and even he said Antonio's great for us when he's super fit. Antonio is not super fit at the moment, so Moyes has got to make that choice. We've got another 4 games, if you include the Palace game, another 5 games before Moyes can bring anybody in. So he's got to make that decision now. Neil, hello, mate. 11:35 p.m. I hope you're well. Where Australia 220 for 221 at stumps. I'm not interested in cricket, but thank you for that, Neil. Grant, hello, mate. Thank you for joining. Gaza, hello, mate. Good afternoon, you Marcus. I felt like I've gone on a bit of a rant and not really made myself very clear. I don't know, but maybe some of your comments might help me here. Afternoon, WHU. I hope you're well. Good afternoon, Helen. How are you? James, are the Aussies giving you stick? Read the cricket. Sharky, hello, mate. Arsenal fans unbearable. Do you know what? We we gifted them 3 points last night because of the way we sat back. We sat back and we allowed them to play their game. As soon as we got the ball, wherever we were on the pitch, two players were on our player, forcing him to kick the ball away, make an error, or whatever it was. We sat back. We were sitting back on our halfway line, letting them play it out neatly, etc. Just easing it around. No threat. And then before we knew it, because they were building up, those passes developed into more forward passes, and then before we knew it, we were under pressure. It was awful to see. Mick, onwards and upwards. Even though our performance annoyed me last night, it did annoy me too. Hammer, how are you? Can't help but feel miserable today. Onwards and upwards. Upwards, I know. Um, Mark, afternoon. Next few games could be make or break. You would expect us to turn it around. Well, you know what? We've got winnable games now. Norwich, well, they should all be winnable games, but Norwich, we've got to turn up. Then we got Spurs in the Carabao Cup. It's a cup, so you put you go all out for that. And then we've got Southampton at home, and then we've got Watford away. They are kind of winnable games. We should be getting points out of those. And then away to Watford. It won't be easy, but it still should be winnable. Away to Palace, it's not going to be easy. And if we get a point from that, that would be fantastic. But yeah, we've got to turn up on Saturday. Good afternoon, Bezosoku. Antonio's not good enough. End up. It's not that he's not good enough. He's just like not in form at the moment, and something needs to change there. Sharky, Leicester Spurs called off. I got a feeling that our game on the weekend's going to be called off as well. Gaza, we can't turn up on Saturday if it goes ahead and expect to roll over Norwich. Absolutely not. Gaza, Spurs game called off tonight. Yeah, Hammerette. I think we have a few underachieving players right now. Unfortunately, it's not just one player. Otherwise, we'll still be winning games. I agree with that. And I get the point that was made last night in the review that it's not just about Antonio. Some of our other players are not turning up as well. But that's why you've got the squad. Mix it around. Show some faith in Vlasic. Start him. Who knows? And Vlasic himself has said, I'm better at playing central rather than playing out wide. Start him central. See what he can do. If he doesn't show what he's worth, then take him off. Grant, no support, no attacking vigor. Antonio's touch is poor and he can't cross either. And this is the other thing. His touch, we know what he's like. 1 minute he could be sublime, next minute it could be ridiculous. Sometimes it will hit his knee and it will fall for him right, and next minute it will hit his knee and it will just go into Rose head. We know what he's like. Robin, hello, mate. Afternoon, so boy, you look pissed off. I was upset, because it was just we as I said, we gave them 3 points. We allowed them to play their game. We didn't close them down for the two goals. Yeah, and it was just really quite awful to see. Saka. I don't want to get into the Masuaku bashing yet again, but you could see why Masuaku is not a left back. Even Moyes said it. He didn't. It doesn't actually want to play him there. But we're unfortunate. We've got injuries, so there was no choice but to play him. But then other people will argue Longello had a great game against Zagreb last week. Why wasn't he in the squad? Alese, he's a natural defender, a left-sided defender, can play centre back and can play left back. Why not give him that? Give them the chance. I know it's a tall order for the youngsters, but give them a chance. And as my mates were saying as we were coming out of the stadium, look, if we're going to go in there, if we're going to go to a game, we're going to sit back and give them all the play. If that's going to happen, then you might as well go for it. If we're going to lose, might as well lose trying. And I think one of the things we as West Ham fans one thing that we as West Ham fans will stomach is if we go out there and try and lose, at least we can turn around and say, well, at least we tried and we weren't good enough. What we did against Arsenal was we kind of like we sat back too much. We allowed them so much space, and we got what we deserved. They scored. you almost knew it. You almost knew that the minute that they were going to be awarded all that space, that they were going to punish us, and they did. I got Anton is in the background in a minute, so let's go through comments before I bring him on. We were bad, but the three major injuries are killing us. Yeah, agreed. But Antonio's completely out of sorts. Okaflex should have come on. I get why Okaflex didn't come on, because we went a man down, and I just wonder whether he might have got a few minutes had we still had 11 players on the pitch. Gaza, this is where Moyes earns his money, and this is what I'm thinking. He's got to make some difficult choices. Antonio's unstoppable against Norwich, against who he scored 4 goals in the season. That doesn't mean, I know what people are saying, and this is the other thing I fear. Antonio will play against a poor Norwich. He'll score and make a goal or whatever, and everyone will say he's back. But that's papering over the cracks for me. I know Antonio will start on Saturday. There's absolutely no two ways about it. If he's fit, he will start. Moyes will see it as an opportunity for Antonio to sort of get back into some sort of fitness or sort of form. But that for me isn't the answer, because then we've got next game be against Spurs, etc. I don't know. Save him for Spurs. Go all out for the cup. Save him for Spurs. I think we've got enough in our locker not to have to start Antonio on Saturday. Uh, Not too great, guys. By pushing through. Thanks, right. Oh, are you okay, Hammerette? English Yardie, Morningstar. Hold your head up, sir. It's not over. This loss, to be honest, has been coming since the Brighton match to compete with Greedy Six. You know what? You're absolutely right. It has been coming. We kind of expected it. Bozosoko, none of these can hit a barn door. Well, one shot on target last night. Sharky, why is Antonio always drifting out? That was tactical. We could see it. He was deliberately out wide. Bowen was in the middle. That must have been a tactical switch. I don't think he deliberately drifted out wide. It looked, because Bowen was literally playing as a centre forward and Antonio was out wide. That looked like a tactical switch. Um, Neil, fifth generation. Oh, you're talking about that game where you hit a ball with a bat. I don't understand that. Totti Didcot, good afternoon. Think Antonio should have a few weeks off, change the system, and bring in a few of the under 23s. Let's bring on Anton, and we'll go to your other comments later on. Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Had time to kind of digest the loss yesterday evening. So, um, yeah, I've been listening to what you've been saying and listening to the comments as well. And I just find that I'm not you. I just there's a lot of panic sitting very quickly. Not from you, but just generically from a lot of West Ham fans. And I understand the frustration. I get it, because I think that over the last couple of years we've been used to a certain way or a certain style. But it's funny when you sit back, you get a chance to really think about it. A bit like why you've done the show today, because you probably had a chance to really sit there and think about it and think through it practically. But we are a football club in transition, and you know yourself, still transition doesn't mean things will flow easily. They
Mm.
certainly won't, and they certainly don't. And I don't doubt for a second that David Moyes sits back and goes, "Oh, there's definitely issues there, and I need to try things, and I need to do things, and all this sort of stuff." But what I found interesting was his press conference. He said that he noticed that Antonio, there was a couple of things that were clicking again. And I know you said in the review last night, well, I've not saw that.
Yeah.
But I think that what he sees maybe is the smallest of things that click. So maybe I think I mentioned it. I don't know if you wouldn't have seen it on the Matchday Live when we were talking about Antonio's diving header. Was it against Chelsea? The diving header that was really well saved from Mendy. Um, Little things like that. I don't know if that's what he's meaning by the little clicks.
Well,
And
I
and,
think he
and
needs to explain to us what those are, because I think as fans we're not seeing it. What we're seeing is, I mean, I did say against Chelsea in the second half he was a different player, but I
yeah,
just really wonder. This is why I'm wondering whether this is the time to bring him on as an impact sub. And maybe if we do get an alternative attacking player, notice I don't say striker, because I'm really wary of saying that we'll bring a striker in, because I still don't think he will. I think he'll bring Lingard in if he can, and that'll be our lot. But I just wonder, maybe when he does bring an alternative attacking option in January, he might utilize Antonio from the subs bench at times, because he'll
he
have that
might, yeah.
option. You
And I
know,
think, but the thing is, though, again, it goes back to, again, you may have missed it yesterday, but I was with a friend, and a neutral friend, and he said to me, "Oh, is the striker scenario kicking up again between the West Ham fan base?" And I said, "It's always been there. It's always been there. It's never gone away." But the situation I think we find ourselves in is that people can sit here as fans like me and you and come up with strikers that we think West Ham would sign, but there's other clubs that aren't. Other clubs are out there looking for strikers, and no one is signing these strikers. And we have maybe found ourselves, we've became I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, a problem from our own system, something that we've created. Not a problem because it's a good thing because we're doing well, but we can only play in that manner, in that way.
yeah, this is what
And and
people
and,
are.
and, and so me and you, who loved Sebastian Haller, who always thought Sebastian Haller was, if you fed him, he would score, and we're seeing that now. However, you put Sebastian Haller in a West Ham team, would that happen again? And I'm not sure it would, because our team work with work rate and
Yeah,
not
and
with feeding the striker.
yeah,
And,
this is
and
what people are alluding to, that Moyes sometimes doesn't have a plan B, and I guess what I'm suggesting is that we now need the plan B.
yeah,
And Moyes needs to have that faith in the squad, to turn around to Antonio and say, look, lad, I know you're trying hard. It's just not coming off for you. I'm going to, like I said about, say, the Norwich game, I know this won't happen, but, you know, uh, and I'm not saying I'm right, but maybe, Moyes can turn around to Antonio and say, sit on the bench, see what's going on in the game. Let's talk about it. I'm going to bring you on so we can discuss, before you go on, look at what's going on. Where are the weak spots of Norwich? When I put you on, you go and address those. You go and attack that right back. You
yeah.
go and attack that left back or whatever. And sometimes Antonio, I know he tries. No one's suggesting for a minute that he's not trying. It's just not coming off for him. And I also get what was said in the review. Is it Kevan Campbell said, well, you can't just blame him. You got to blame the attack, the support as well. I get that too. But at the moment, the way we're set up, and I think that's what you're alluding to, is we're set up for Antonio to be the effective player to get other players into the game. And when he's not being effective, the other players can't get into the
Well,
game.
but this is
You know,
maybe the problem, I think, and it's not. I don't even know if it is a problem, but I think it maybe goes a bit deeper than just Antonio. I think Happy Hammerette said it earlier on when she said there's a lot of players not kind of playing up. So
not performing. Yeah,
I said last night, and I don't want to sound like I'm digging him out big style, but Benny's just not at the races right now. He is a completely different man,
absolutely.
and when he came off the bench yesterday, he he immediately was losing the ball.
Yeah,
He was trying things, but he looked lackluster. He tried to deliver the ball and he couldn't get it to the location. And I couldn't get so it's not just Antonio that's lost form. It's a collection of maybe three or four
totally
players
agree.
that have lost
Totally
form, and I
agree.
think that has
Yeah,
impacted not just the results, because at the end of the day, we still are fifth. We've what are we on 27? No,
27,
what
28 points, something like that.
yes,
Yeah.
something like that after so
But
many
my
games of the
point,
season.
yeah, but my point is, when another player is not on form, Moyes doesn't have that problem in making a decision to not start that player. So
Yeah,
if Ben Rama and Fornals have not been on form, Lanzini has fought his way into the team. So Moyes doesn't have a problem. When Johnson came in for Soufal when Soufal was injured, Johnson kept his place. So Moyes doesn't have a problem making a decision in most parts of the pitch.
yeah,
He's made a decision to keep Fabianski. Fabianski has proved himself, and we take our hat off to him and say we were all wrong when we're all calling
yeah,
out for Areola.
yeah,
So when you look at all areas of the pitch, Moyes is going, if you're playing well, I'll keep you in there. If you're not, or if you lose your place for it, whatever reason, then that's my decision to make. The only spot that he's not making that decision on is up front. You
and I
know,
think
he,
though,
he
I think if you think about, I know it's not just a stats game, but at the end of the day, sometimes these stats do play a part. Antonio scored 6 goals and assisted 4. He's been involved in 10 goals. He's been a pivotal reason as to why we have got to where we've got. I'm not saying we have to rely on
absolutely,
that all the time. I'm
yeah,
not saying that. However, Matt made the valid point. If he finishes the season on 12 goals and 8 assists, then we would look at that as a good return for our player that we didn't look at as. And I get it. I get that he's not
absolutely. But
the
it's
number 9
during
that
these
we anticipated.
phases,
Yeah,
yeah. I
Yeah,
get you. It's during these phases though where Moyes has got to take that tough to. What I wonder with Moyes is why is he quite comfortable to make the decision on dropping Benrahma or Fornals or any other player when he's not as comfortable to do it with Antonio. Sometimes I think Moyes is a little bit blinded by that, and he will keep the faith. And I get that. That's good management, because he's turning around to a player and going, "You're my number one. You will continue to be my number one." But when a player has lost form, not just one, two, three games, but nearly a dozen games
yeah,
or so, which he has. And as I've said, he's had moments. And if you remember about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, I was saying maybe Antonio has just become that typical striker, that number 9,
yeah,
where he doesn't have to be involved in a game, but he only takes one chance or one assist to do his job.
yeah,
But
yeah,
unfortunately, it's gone beyond that. It's gone beyond him just, being that typical striker where he doesn't have to be involved. He's actually, I think it's affecting the whole front line
well,
because he
actually,
cannot
yeah,
retain the ball.
yeah,
When
yeah,
because he can't retain the ball, as I said, means that the front line, the attacking players can't get involved because
yeah,
the minute he loses that ball and he has lost it, I think there was a stat last night. He lost it 27 times. The
yeah.
ball last night, something really quite high, and that means that the minute your striker can't hold on to the ball, it means you're under pressure straight away.
I know, like, you know, I mean, I know there's loads of comments in the chat, right? But there's one particular comment I just want to bring up because it's just caught my eye there. And Gaza is saying we are having a little slump. Any team can go through that. It's about bouncing back, and I think the
Totally
last part
agree.
of
Yeah,
that is about bouncing back. And the next run of games on paper gives West Ham an opportunity to bounce back. But we know it doesn't work like that because if Liverpool come up against West Ham and Chelsea come up against West Ham, everyone totally underestimates West Ham, and then bang, we come out and get a result. So we can't
yeah.
underestimate our opposition. However, we do have a run of 5 games where we can bounce back. And if we can bounce back, then as a fan base, we may be sitting here and going, right, okay, maybe just hit a bit of a slump. And that's where I'm going with this. For me,
It
a
is a slump.
transition. It's a transition for though, because
Yeah.
we are like, I actually believe we are trying to transition to that next stage.
Hmm.
And I think when we since Moyes has come back, we have gone through several slumps and
Yeah.
then bounced back again. And this is what, and people are making the comments as well. People are saying this is what's going to test Moyes. This is
Yeah.
probably his biggest test still, because he's in the last 16 of Europa League and we've got a thin squad. We've got a League Cup quarterfinal and he's got a thin
Hmm.
squad. We're in the top 5 of the Premier League and we've got a thin squad and we're about to enter the
Absolutely.
FA Cup.
And that's why I'm trying not to be, I'm really desperately trying,
Yeah,
I even tried last night in the review not to be negative about what's going on because I don't want to become that fan that starts, bemoaning, I had a go at people in my show on Monday night about that, about the way people are reacting. People are being so reactive to every time, we don't win a game or we don't win a game against a team that we expected to win, and I did say, God knows what would be like if we lose 2 games in a row, and I don't want to experience the social media outcry if
yeah,
that happens. So I don't want to be that fan,
yeah,
and I know, like you said, and people are saying, I know we will bounce back from it, but sometimes bouncing back from it might mean that Moyes has to make. I think my point is about
big
making
decisions. Yeah,
tactical changes, yeah,
yeah,
rather than saying we'll get through this and I'll just continue to do the same old. And what kind of gets me, if nothing, if anything about this is Moyes has established a formula for getting at teams and getting results,
yeah,
against the likes of Chelsea and against the likes of Liverpool, etc. When we go at teams and when we close them down, we reap the rewards from that. For
yeah,
some reason, he's sort of reverted back to sit back, absorb, l- soak up the pressure. We are, with the greatest of respect to our squad, we're not good enough to absorb 90 minutes of pressure against good passing teams as well. People say we should have beat Brighton. Brighton are a good passing team. We absorbed pressure from them. We made them look like, a
but
Barcelona in the way they were passing the ball. And we've done that against teams, we did that against Arsenal. We sat back and absorbed, and that's not good enough for us. We're not that sort of team. And I know Moyes wants to set us up as a counter-attacking team. That's absolutely fine. But what they were doing to us last night, the minute we got the ball, two players on one of our players closed down straight away, right from
But
our
still,
goal line.
on that, I've had time to think about the game in itself. I mean, looking back at Arsenal, I said it during the stream. Arsenal were a team of possessed players last night. There was a difference. There was a spark that even the commentators were saying. I wasn't a fan of the commentators, but I don't know if you noticed, but Arteta was never inside his regulation points. He never stood inside it. He was constantly breaking the rules of stepping out. He was actually borderline on the park most of the time. I've never seen him so active on the park. They were talking about how they've obviously stripped Aubameyang of the captaincy and they've created a leadership group. So Lacazette wore the captaincy armband, but he was not the captain. There was a group of leaders on that park yesterday that worked for the team, and they're saying things like Lacazette's going to get a new lease of life because he's not going to have the pressure of being the second string striker. But I don't know if even a good West Ham turned up yesterday, or a good Manchester United, or a good Liverpool would have turned up yesterday and could have got a result. Because what I saw from Arsenal last night, and I get that's not the West Ham we were used to, but last night I felt like was a different one because Arsenal were like the Arsenal of old. They were sometimes have this interlinked play last night where they were backheeling it. Martinelli was within the 30th minute. Martinelli
there was a
was
swagger.
fancy stuff. There was a swagger about their approach, but there was also a possessed approach. And they were possessed, and they were like, "Do you know what? We are going to prove to the fact that you don't need Aubameyang."
I agree with a lot of that.
So I think we were like,
yeah, I agree with a lot of that, but that doesn't change the way we should be playing our game, especially when we've seen the way we can perform against teams, when we have that swagger about us, making teams worry about playing us. And what we did last night was, I think we afforded them far too much respect. We allowed them to have that swagger. We allowed them to actually create that atmosphere, and had we been at them from the off, I think that swagger wouldn't have been there. It would have put a little bit of doubt in their minds. But because we dropped off, and we were dropping off really deep, and there were times when, when we picked the ball up, we had all our players in our own half, and to try and build on that, and the fact that they had that, they got encouragement from realizing that they were going to be afforded time. What they did to us was they just pressed us, and they didn't afford us any time. That created their swagger. Had we been in their faces, and we were talking about this, like the lads I was with last night were saying, if we're going to just sit in our own box, might as well just not turn up. There's no point. What we want to see is it's not so much about, of course the result counts, of course it does, but it's about the performance. And it looked like, it looked like Moyes said to the team, sit back, absorb, try and hit them on the break. But try and hit them on the break when you are so deep in your own half isn't going to work. And then try and hitting them on the break when your front man isn't managing to hold on to the ball. 27 times he lost the ball, and he's a big man. I look at Arsenal's defense, and I thought he's got the making of any one of those defenders. They're good defenders, but there's no reason why Antonio should have lost the ball as many times as he did.
To be fair, I think after the Chelsea game, what maybe Arsenal saw, because I think in the first half in particular, Christensen was all over Antonio, and there was always those defenders that were maybe parking two players on top of him and making his game difficult. Maybe some teams have now started to learn that the only way you really get around a player like Antonio is you have to be as physical, mark him out of the game, or as physical as he possibly can, which then draws him out wide. But then again, you need the whole team to back it up. Anyway, still, I do need to go. But before I go, I mean, there's rumours kicking about all over social media saying that games may be getting postponed, and they're talking up.
Well, the Leicester game, people are saying Leicester Spurs.
Yeah, that's confirmed. That's confirmed.
And
then I think
a lot of talk about the
Brentford
West Ham.
Have got loads of cases as well. So anyway, I'll let you go.
All right, I'm going to finish off and do
the comments.
More chat. All right, mate.
Take it easy.
Right, let's finish off. So Hammers Mikey, Okaflex up top with Bowen, Fornals, Lanzini in behind. We just need something different, don't we? Hammerette. On a positive, what a game Dawson and Fabs had. Ashby looked great too. Yeah, Dawson, turning up again. Gaza, we've had this problem for years just now. Our squad has never been big enough. Helen, All our attackers are off the ball, just not just one. The same with injuries. We don't have one defender injured. They're all, and now with Sufal suspended, made it even harder. Good point, English Yardy. Our players are tired, overplayed, and injuries are taking a toll. We need to rotate players more often. Moyes likes a smaller squad, but when you're trying to compete with a greedy six, it's tough. But this is what I'm trying to say. Then, if he's going to use a smaller squad, and if our players are tired, mix it up. Have some faith in the other players in that squad and mix it up a bit. Grant, Fabianski and Dawson can't play out from the back. Good point. That, to be honest, they can't. We continue giving the ball back to the opposition. Good afternoon to you, Steve. I hope you're well. Steve, again, I would argue that the ball's not being played in front of him. Good, yeah, that's a good point. But the style of play that Antonio plays, that we've gotten kind of accustomed to, is that when he gets the ball, he's strong enough. He should be strong enough to hold the ball up to allow other players to come into the game. But yeah, good point. Steve, which is his strength? Yeah, but his strength is also holding the ball up. But yeah, I get your point as well. Yeah, Hammerette, Grant, I get that. But Favs made some great saves, and Dawson was immense. Would have conceded far more if those two weren't on the pitch. Good point, Fred. Ars played well, and we're up for it. We were still poor though, and shake up is needed. Helen. Antonio has been found out, and the opposition always put two or more players on him to stop him playing the way he plays. Yep, good point. Let's scroll down because we've got a lot to catch up on. What's the time? A lot of chat. Vlasic needs to run in games. Can't get any worse than it already is. Garino. Players behind Antonio are partly to blame. Not playing the right balls for Antonio to run onto. I kind of disagree with that, to be honest with you. Benrahma, because it's just that when the ball does come to Antonio, it's just not sticking to him. Benrahma and Fornal's dip in form have coincided with that of Antonio's. Perhaps not a coincidence. But as I've said earlier, what Moyes does with any other player on the pitch, more or less, or any other position, is he will make that decision. He will decide to drop Benrahma or drop Fornals or whatever. And I'm sure if Bowen, for example, wasn't playing well, he wouldn't hesitate to drop Bowen as well. Good afternoon to you, Jake. I hope you're well. Grant, agree, happy that's the dilemma. Explains our lack of cutting edge. Hard to score without the ball. Let's scroll down because there's a lot of people in the chat, and I've got to go too. English Yardy. To be honest, with the current squad we have, we need to play a false nine. We need forwards to press, and everyone moves up accordingly. Midfielders and defence. Spuds have 3 matches to make up so far. They do, So it's on them. It's on them to make up the lost ground. Trini, good afternoon. Honestly, our whole attack recently is not it's not just Antonio, and I have stressed. This isn't just about Antonio. Please do not get me wrong. This isn't me talking about just Antonio. I have said, that when a player's not informed, Moyes doesn't hesitate to drop a player, bring another player in, and so on. But my point is, should he be doing the same thing with Antonio as well? Kevin, hello, mate. West Ham need proper midfielders. Look what Chelsea, when they lose their midfield generals. But at this point, I would love Antonio being dropped, so my point can be proven. I don't, it's not about. I get what you're saying, Kevin, and I think you were on last night as well. Everyone has said it. Players who are not in form are getting dropped. The only player that's not informed that isn't getting dropped is Antonio. I'm afraid to say, it's no denying it. The player is not informed, whether that be because we're not playing him the right way or whatever. But as it stands right now, nothing is sticking to him. There was a stat I mentioned earlier. He lost the ball 27 times last night. That's a player that you're expecting to hold on to the ball to bring other players in. Jim, as long as we stay in the top 10, give the youngsters more time. Neil, Norwich won't be an easy game. I watched them against Man United last week. They played really well and only got beat by a penalty. WHU, we also need to change our formation now and then. Otherwise, opposing teams will know what to expect every time we step on the pitch. We often go a goal down, ended up chasing the game. Garino, look at our front four. They have stopped taking risks, making those runs into the box, trying to get onto the end of things. Now we play it wide, then back. But I guess this is my point. If there's nothing to run into, if there's no space to run into, then they're not going to take that risk because the ball is not sticking to us. We're not holding on to the ball, whether that's Antonio, Benrahma's guilty of that as well. Not just him. Sharky, football is going to be paused at the rate things are going. Yeah, I kind of agree. Hammerette, I would say without a doubt we have the most predictable lineup week in, week out. I'd like to see it changed up. Can surely only benefit us. English Ardy, I think Norwich will get cancelled. Premier League just can't. Yeah, yeah, I think it's going to happen as well. I think it's going to get cancelled. Trini, we don't need wholesale changes or formation changes. Moyes needs to break the habit he has of not rotating enough. I think that's my point here. Make sure that you're rotating enough. Have some faith in the players in the squad. If he's got Echo Flex in, again, I repeat, perhaps last night wasn't the right time to do it because we lost the player to a really bad red card. But I just wonder whether Moyes might, do something different against Norwich. He probably won't. We'll probably start with the same lineup or a similar lineup to what we did in the last few games. But I think it would be good to sort of see something different. Eric, Epic, hello mate. We've reached our peak if Moyes doesn't have the heart to drop Antonio and sign someone considerably better than him. We can forget top four if we sign a backup striker. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think Moyes now needs to bite the bullet, and he does need to buy a backup striker, doesn't he? Hammer, it's hard to stay positive. We have talent that can play far better than they currently are. I think that's why we should stay positive because we know we've got talent that can play better. Hammer's Mikey, hello mate. Seriously, Stellos, you should be West Ham man. Oh, no, I don't have the answers, mate. I'm just a fan. That's why I do this. Otherwise, I would be managing a team. Agree with all the. Thank you for that. But we all have different opinions. And they're all valid. But thank you for that. Garino, to be honest, I kind of expected this slump earlier due to the Europe traditionally, but the irony is Europe's over and we've gone into this slump. Traditionally happened to other Premier League teams. It just seems the irony is that we were playing better when we were playing European games, whereas now we don't have the European games and we're kind of in the slump. It kind of caught up with us with injuries, though. That's a good point. Jim, yeah, defo give Okaflex a go. Well, maybe give the lad, if we do play at the weekend, 20 minutes, if need be. Steve, let's be honest with ourselves, we need a reality check. And I think, that's a really good point. And I did ask on social media the other day, what do you honestly expect West Ham to achieve? It's still work in progress. Even Moyes has suggested we've been punching, by being fourth or okay, now fifth, and even he said last season we did better than he expected. This season we're doing better than we expected. It does catch up with a small squad, with injuries, etc., players out of form and so on. So yeah, I agree with that. What is our expectation? What is our expectation? I said at the beginning of the season, I love to finish fifth and win some trophy. I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with that. If we win a trophy and be in the top six, I think the season will be fantastic. I think we've been, top four, you know, by default in a way because other teams now are catching up to us. Man United, they'll get a result or two here and there. Arsenal are getting better. Spurs under their new manager could probably get better as well. So there's competition there. So yeah, what do we expect from the season? Where do we honestly think we should be at? Kevin, Antonio's the only one playing on the field against everyone else. It seems there's no one else in the West Ham. I disagree. You may be an Antonio fan, but you've got to see the true light of day. Yeah, I'm sorry, Kevin. I know you're an Antonio fan, and I'm not dissing Antonio, and I'm trying not to anyway. And I also agree with what other people are saying. It's not just Antonio. There are other players that are not putting in a performance at the moment. But when other players don't put in a performance, they get dropped. Antonio doesn't. Epic, Okaflex has 10 goals in 13 games in the Mickey Mouse League. Give him a chance. He can't possibly be worse than other attacking players, Bone excluded. Helen, our slump has come at the wrong time. We'd probably be out of the cup next week the way we're playing. But you know what? That could be a little booster for us. Trini, in my opinion, dropping Antonio will make no difference. Too many of our attackers are out of form, not creating and missing chances. Bone went missing last night. Lanzini ended up as a DM, defensive midfielder. Fornals was also out flat. Let's scroll down. Hello, Ray. Winnable games, but a threadbare backline still. Not even Sufal now. I know. It's going to be tough for us. Hopefully, if we do play at the weekend, Crozor's back. Hopefully, and there is talk about Johnson being back a bit sooner as well. Fred, Truesdale, we can't let the mood carry on. We need to step out. That's why I'm asking, that's why I'm asking, what's our real expectation? Good afternoon to you, Richard. Hammerette, the more Antonio gets slated, the longer it will take for him to bounce back. Play Flex for a week or two and use Antonio. So what I'm suggesting, it's not about dropping a player completely. Use Antonio as an impact sub. he could come on. That might give him the confidence he needs to get back up and running. So maybe for now, it won't happen, but maybe for a game. Norwich might be the ideal game for it. We should have enough in our locker to be able to go out there and give Norwich a good game. And if it ain't going well, bring Antonio on with half an hour to go and see what he can do off the bench, an impact sub. Not suggesting that should happen all the time, but that might give the player himself the confidence to go, I remember what it is I need to do now, and then go out against Spurs and smash them. Epic. I know Moyes would never do it, but we should seriously consider selling Antonio while he still has some value. I think he's done. Oh, a lot of people would. Mm, Interesting. Adam, 3 or 4 players need to be dropped. We have to change it, bring the youngsters on, or we won't get top 6. Well, I'm not suggesting for a minute that all the youngsters will make a difference. Oko Flex looks a decent player. He may get an opportunity at the weekend if we play. English Yardie, Hammerette. I'm a realist. Right now, our squad is tired. Playing with a greedy six and being consistent is not easy. Every match in the Premier League is tough. Last 18 months have been unbelievable. Good point. Yeah, it's caught up with us. Chris, good morning, still. Oh my God, yesterday I felt so down. I never knew I loved the team so much. Moyes should give Longello a start at left back. You know, with the greatest of respect to Masuaku, who had a really decent game at the weekend, he didn't have a good game. Saka was all over him on Wednesday night. Really was. Let's scroll down because I've got to move on and my lunchtime is almost over. Gazza, yes, of course we need the front four to be on fire, but it don't help when our whole back is out. Arthur gives me nightmares at left back. He gives me nightmares as well. English Hardy. Declan is unbelievable talent at times. The team needs to push on like he does. The Burnley match, he was unbelievable. I'm starting to see his frustration, and I don't like that. Yeah, he was frustrated last night as well, wasn't he, after the game? Harley, I'm not mad if the slump is a few games longer, but I want to see us try new things to see what depth of squad and strategy we really have. And I guess this is what I'm saying. If it's not working, you know, if it's not working, no point in continuing to do the same thing, same thing, same thing. Change something. Change something. Do something that's a little bit different. If you have to go through at the back, go through at the back. Whatever it may be. Give us. Put Masuaku a bit further forward, and try and get him to put the crosses in and stuff like that. Do something different. And please don't get me wrong. This is not an Antonio bashing, and it's not a team bashing. Yes, the season's catching up with us. Yes, we've got players out of form. No, it's not just Antonio. I'm not saying it is. But as I've repeated myself over throughout this last hour, when a player in the team isn't performing, Moyes doesn't hesitate to drop that player, put him on the bench, put someone else in. The only player he hasn't done that with in the Premier League has been Antonio. Black Country, get Lingard back, you'll see a difference in Antonio. Absolutely, you're probably right. Hammers, Mikey, Moyes is too stubborn, always been and always will be. Good afternoon. Is it Nick in the background there? Mate, what a correct game. We made the mistake of doing a review last night when we got home. Never again in the heat of the moment. Pulled it down this morning. Never do that. Never do that. And if you're going to do it, try and be as impartial as you can be, because the heat of the moment can get to you. Glad I didn't see it. WHO, I'm wondering, because we play the same way all the time, is it coincidence that our forward players are off form and too knackered closing down space? Our possession stats are awful. Good point, Martin. We need to sign players in January, fast, no last day deals. I agree with that. I still don't think we're going to get that many players. I think it's still going to be two, Lingard and a centre back, and that'll be our lot. But that might just be enough. As someone else said, put Lingard on, you see a different Antonio. Really good point. Steve, impact sub is not the answer, especially if you're not playing him to his strengths. Well, yeah, again, mate, I agree with you there, but I would disagree about not playing to his strengths. Antonio is the sort of player that you can play it to him and he can turn and run with the ball. You can play it forward and he can run with the ball. I get that, and I don't think we're playing much differently. I just think he's just out of form at the moment. I just think and the ball comes to him, it's just not sticking to him. The number of times he got the ball nicked off him, when it, and when you usually know he's strong enough to be able to hold on to it, so I think maybe an impact coming on as an impact sub might just give him the impetus, bring him on for half an hour and say just run flat out for that half an hour, don't worry about it doing the whole game. But yeah, Black Country, VAR is shocking. It was awful. It was a challenge. I mean, it's interesting that Moyes said it was he sort of alluded to Soufal's challenge not being a good one. He got the ball. He actually got the ball. The follow through, but if you get the ball first, it almost doesn't matter what happens with the follow through. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not worth it. Good afternoon. Lingard is the spark we need. He'd be a catalyst and we'll chip in with a few goals and assists as well. Only West Ham make me like that. I'm overexcited when we win, over negative when we lose. I'm like a big kid. Trini, Moyes needs to use more players. That's the real issue. This is what I've been saying. Utilize your squad, have faith in your squad, see what they can produce. He does not even use tactical subs in a game. Always waits till the 70th, 80th minute when it's too late. Ray, thank you for becoming a new member. Much appreciated, mate. Thank you for that. I'm going to scroll down. David M. Can you imagine Spurs' first game in a month will be against West Ham while we've been playing all these games? Doesn't seem fair to me. I know. That is really out of order. But in some ways, it could be to our favour as well, because that might mean they've not played a game for what 3-4 weeks. They won't be match fit, so it might benefit us. So look at it in the positive. Grant Haller was a 10 who was at his best playing with a 9, and Moyes tried to force him into a lone striker number. Haller, let's not go there. People know my thoughts on Haller. I think it was a mistake letting him go, but there you go. We don't play to Antonio's strengths anymore. A lot of people saying that. I'm not sure I get that. But anyway, he has pace and power, Merchant. When we was last time we passed into the channels and gave him the ball to chase, and then we moan that he plays out in the channels. Mark, too many touches, cheap passing, not high enough pressing, too slow to getting on the ball in the box, problems all round. English Yardy, we need European football to hang on to our players, being consistent, not easy. The greedy six will always get the calls from the rest. That caller, I mean, we had a nailed on penalty against Burnley, which we weren't given, and then Soufal got the ball, and then it was a penalty and a sending off as well. Let's scroll down because I've really got to go, people. So I'm going to do a couple more comments before I go. Stuart, the negative comments never help. I'm all for a meaningful debate and think Antonio does need resting, possibly. Trini, Greek and Booze, everything is just aimlessly just lumped at Antonio for him to battle the centre backs. It's unfair to single Antonio out when the whole team is not playing well. Mark, Antonio needs to chase balls. Problem with playing the ball up to Antonio for him to control. He has the touch of an epileptic Jimmy. Let's scroll down. Hammers Mikey wouldn't wish it on any Hammers player, but maybe a short-term injury to Antonio would be a blessing in disguise. If it means Moyes will then have to change it up. Moyes has to change it up. Simple as that. Hammer Brentford have 13 players and staff out. Chelsea now have 3 cases. How much longer before they set out in all black and white? How many players need to? They're going to be more and more games called off as we go. Grant, agree, Claret. Do think a change of formation means opposition having to adapt to us in games based on what they mean. Change of formation might make things different. Sorry, I'm trying to rush through the comments because I've really got to go. Let's scroll down for people that haven't had a comment yet. Ed, we won't win another game with Masuaku in the team. It cost us a man all game to help him. Let's not go there. I'm trying not to be a Masuaku, doomist. Strange that Moyes really had a go. So I'm surprised at that. 8 Barley. We lack the depth to really rotate up front for Mickey, aside for trying the youngsters, and the other options are in a dip that would be first choice. Jordan, it's more the manner of our play. We rely too much on spirit and not enough on creating genuine chances. We were doing it earlier in the season, like you said, though. James, what's the point of having good under 23s if we never use them? Well, like I said, maybe if we still had 11 players on the pitch last night, you may have got a glimpse of Occo Flex. I'm kind of expecting that to happen at the weekend, but who knows? English Yardy, consistency is new to us still. We are learning. It's not easy. Against Spuds, we've got to play a false 9. We need to qualify for Europe. That's how we learn consistency. Good point. Joseph, we are going through a bad time. All teams go through, so this change is good for morale. Yeah, but it's how we pick up from this. And I know we'll come back. I know we will. There's no doubt. Lee, please let's not be Everton and Man U when they make the mistakes of letting Moyes go. Moyes does try different things, but are not always going to get it right. I don't think we're going to let Moyes go. I think he's going to have enough time. DA, I don't want us to play Brentford, but we're going soft. We need to start putting it about. Yeah, we do. It's a good point. James, do you think that David Moyes should give Declan Rice license to change things like formation if things aren't going? No, it's the manager's job to do that. It's not a player's job to do that. A manager should tell the players what he expects of them from the sidelines before the game, during the game, halftime, etc. But it's not up to a player to sort of dictate tactics and formation. To be honest with you, that's it. I got to go. I really do. He was absolutely slaughtered by Saka last night, Trini. Sorry to say, mate. I got to go. Thank you all for joining in. Much appreciated. Like I said, please don't misunderstand. This ain't a team slating. This ain't an Antonio slating. I'm not having a go. I just think that Moyes needs to sort of consider, like I said earlier, when a player is not playing well. He has no hesitation in changing things. Right back, centre back. Attacking midfielders, etc., etc. And he's got to consider doing that with Antonio. That's all. Not having a go at Antonio. I understand what everyone's saying. It's not just Antonio. Our front line's not performing at the moment. There's a lot of things that are not going well, but keep the faith. I do not want to be a doom and gloomist. That's not my motto. I hate feeling like that, so I'm not going to. I know we're going to bounce back, but Moyes just needs to have faith in his squad, maybe changing it around a little bit, maybe starting Antonio off the bench, on the bench and seeing how he might be able to be an impact sub. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, thank you for joining. I don't know when our next show is. Might be one tonight, might be one tomorrow. I know there'll definitely be one tomorrow, so do join us for that. But we'll let you know. Hit the like button and all that sort of stuff. Subscribe, and then you know when the next show is on.